downs.
Oh.
Do you hear that? The skies are welcoming you
Oh
this
my
evening.
goodness.
It's so beautiful to hear this music in the midst of this storm here.
It's kind of perfect.
It's
Thank
kind
you
of
for
perfect.
arranging that.
I do what I can, you know, I really do.
Always.
I know we want to talk a little bit about why we're here, but since we just heard the piece, when
Mhm.
we spoke a little earlier, you talked about this evening's pieces as being inward looking. And so we
Mhm.
just heard meditations. What what about that? What about that is inward looking? What about the music feels inward looking to you?
Yeah, so I spent the last year digging through the
Working,
music
yeah,
of Florence Price, learning Price, meeting Florence Price. And one of the things that's so extraordinary about her music is that she has so many different languages within her voice. Um, and I think part of that is situational. That she wrote music for different purposes. Part of it has to do with, time of life and journey, and a lot of it is just very reflective of mood. So when I sat down to try to sort of organize and record this music, I found different groupings. Last night we shared a group of pieces called that I call excursions, that all are different treatments of sort of voyages. And the pieces that we're sharing tonight, starting with meditation, I think really are just these very intimate, reflective pieces that are connecting with her most inner world, and they none of them feel like showpieces to me. They feel like they are written, for reflection, and they're private and intimate pieces.
tell us a little bit about why we're here this evening.
Mm.
I'm very, very excited to have learned about Boulanger Initiative. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved and what it is that they're doing that's so important.
Yeah, well, I, before Florence Price and sort of around Florence Price, have been working quite a lot with music by women composers. And so I was so fortunate to connect with the Boulanger Initiative, which has that at the heart of its mission, to
Right.
promote and share and, excavate and educate about the work of female composers. And I mean, in the time that I've been affiliated, and before, since their inception, it's been an incredible, um, awakening. I think that we last night we shared a video. It's a great little video where they just kind of go out in the in the street and ask people if they can name a female composer. And as we know, most people have trouble doing that. And it's been, only in the last few years that we're starting to understand the depth and the breadth of music by women. And we're starting to do something about programming it, recording it, and making it part of the repertoire and part of the canon. High time. So I'm so grateful to Laura Goldgate and to Joy, who have invited me in and who've partnered with me. And I feel like that there couldn't be a better space for us to conduct this exploration of the work of this very phenomenal woman.
Tell us what we're going to hear next.
Next is one of the most interesting pieces that I discovered in in all of my adventures with this music, and it was a difficult piece for me to grow to love. And then once I fell in love with it, I was in deep. It's called Clouds. It's um, it's one of the more abstract of her pieces, and she is playing around with impressionism. She's playing around with the African American vernacular. She's sort of in and out of different sounds, that we become familiar with when we know her music. And I think metaphorically, it's an interesting piece too, because the the um, the way that clouds obscure things. I think that this was a woman who had to search throughout her life to connect with who she was and to stay connected with who she was, and to and to break through, the clouds that were created
Right.
around her by the culture of her time.
And what about the piece was not attractive to you at first? What was in the way
I have to
initially?
say that some of the most precious music to me has been the hardest to go into. I don't know. I can't tell you now. I think there was just something about the pacing of it. It requires patience. I'm not big on that. I had to just let it find me. Most of this music is so accessible that I was just right away, oh, this is how this is. And we had a more circuitous path, but I adore the piece, and I'm so happy to share it.
But clouds are that way anyway, aren't
That's
they?
right. That's right. That's right.
That we must know somehow that the sun is still there, even if we can't see it
That's
behind the
right.
clouds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
beautiful, isn't it?
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, when we begin with music, it's hard for me to think about anything else. And I realize that we didn't introduce ourselves at all.
Yes. Who are you?
My name is Helga Davis, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy to have you here with me, and I'm Lara Downs, and we're happy to have all of you here with
All
us
of you,
tonight.
all of you.
I was sitting there listening to that, and I was remembering one of the last times that I played Florence Price in front of live people in a room was when we were in Boston.
At the
And
Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum.
yes, and that was such a beautiful night, and that music in the context of, a story about Boston and lost narratives, so moving.
And that exhibition is actually still up. I'm sorry we aren't there to present our program again, but that's Boston's Apollo. Uh, and it is the story of Thomas McKellar, who was an African American model whose body was used by John Singer Sargent for many of his most famous murals, and most famously his Apollo. And it's kind of an open secret in Boston, that this is the body of an African American man that has been made into that has been erased in a sense and made into something else and is now being reclaimed. And it seems so much a part of your path also, uncovering this music, finding it, and making sure that it becomes part of your repertoire. And it's one thing to find it and say, well, it's out there. Another thing to put your career and your time and your love and your effort into programming it and making it part of your performance life as well. So it's really beautiful to hear it and to be with you here again. This evening, we're here raising a little bit of money. Not a little bit, we should raise some money.
This work, the work that you're talking about that I do with such joy. I feel that it's such a privilege and it's so exciting. I mean, finding new things is just thrilling. Sharing them is even more so. But the work that the Boulanger Initiative is doing is so important in that way, turning up things that have been buried and letting us all, own them. And it's work that takes such dedication. It's work that takes so much commitment. It's so funny to talk to you with these different soundscapes. You're in New York and it's 7 something and storming, and I'm here on a sunny afternoon in California, and yet here we are together.
And here we are together.
Yes. But yes, can we share the ways that everyone can support the Boulanger Initiative?
Yes, and you can see down at the bottom of your screen that you can go to www.boulangerinitiative.org. And for a $5 donation, you get the beautiful Zoom background of Florence Price. Tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Well, when we were putting this project together, Florence Price, for whatever reason, there are, I think, 2.5 photographs that exist of her in the world, and we've all seen them so many times. And I feel like she didn't love the camera, also. So we had the idea of, just coming up with a different image of her. And so this beautiful portrait, yes, was commissioned from Chelsea Hill, and I love the sort of, there's this calm. What would you call it? There's this calm awareness in this portrait that I think is just really beautifully done. So yes, I'm planning to have this as my Zoom background for sure.
And so that's for a $5 donation. For a $25 donation, we get a limited edition mixtape called AMPLIFY. And that's you playing Florence Price. Tell us about what this is.
So one day during this long quarantine, a friend said to me, you should record some tapes. And I vaguely remembered tapes, and he had a tape deck. And
you have a tape deck?
My friend brought over this, vintage little portable tape deck. And actually, the first time that I sat down and just let myself, record onto the tape deck was on June 6th. I had been to a protest here at the state capitol, and I came home, and after all of those weeks of just feeling sadness and um, overwhelm and helplessness, I felt hope that day and some energy and some, light about some change that could be made out of all this. And I came home, and it was another beautiful afternoon, and I just sat down and pressed record and played some of the American music that to me, you know, is emblematic of the good things we can do. And it was such a freeing and cathartic experience, just single takes and, household noise in the background. But I really loved it. It was kind of like an audio journal. And so then I decided to make a few more, and I've been raising money for the ACLU with my mixtapes. So this is one that focuses on the Florence Price music, and a limited edition because it's very time consuming to make a mixtape and to duplicate it.
For a $50 donation, we have your CD. Oh, oh, oh. Holes in the Sky. There it is.
Yeah. I mean, this is the album that brought me together with the Boulanger Initiative, because this is an album that is dedicated to music composed and performed by women. Some of our dear friends are on this project. So many beautiful collaborations, new commissions, women who are speaking from many different musical backgrounds. It's something that I'm really proud of, and something that brought me a lot of happiness. So that is a CD that I'm happy to give.
And you, my dear, have pressed a piece of vinyl. Tell us about that for a $100 donation.
Yes. So, this year-long journey of recording all of this music, all of it is compiled on this also limited edition vinyl. And so, really this is a chance to just immerse yourself in the world of Florence Price, her bigger pieces, her smaller pieces, the tone poems, and really, get to know this world of music.
So beautiful. Again, you can donate at www.boulangerinitiative.org. There's also money being raised this evening for the ACLU, and it's really a wonderful thing to be a part of. Tell us what piece of music we're going to hear next.
So, you know how you and I have been talking about this during
yes,
this
we have
time,
been.
talking about this, crying about this. But during this time that we're living, this very extraordinary time, things take on new layers, new resonance. They bring us to different places. One of the most fundamental parts of Florence Price's musical language is her connection with African American spirituals. She goes there again and again. And one of the pieces that turned up during this, exploration of her unknown music is an arrangement that she made of Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. I've just put out another album in April called Some of These Days, which is a collection of spirituals and freedom songs. And so, living with this music and reckoning with its history and recognizing its power has really been essential to me during this, very tumultuous and troubling time that we're living in our history. And that song in particular, I think that humans in general, on an individual basis, at every stage of our life, grief makes us feel alone. When somebody dies, you feel like it's the first time that that's happened. Loss always feels like it's unique and only yours. And I think too, all of us collectively in this time of trouble, it feels like we are isolated in it, like it's an isolated incident. And in fact, trouble comes again and again and again, and every generation has its share of trouble. So I think playing this music, it gives me access to that, to the long arc of history, to know that we are living our trouble, and it too shall pass, and trouble will come again, for my children and their children. And the best that we can do in these times is to lean on the ancestors and, the trouble that they saw and to take our strength from it.
And it's interesting that you frame it that way, because whenever I've talked to the old folks about this particular piece of music, so my mother is 92, and when she talks about this, it is no matter what is going on in the world, no matter the crisis, the discrimination, the racism, the thing that I am fighting, when you see me in the street, I am dressed and I am proud and I walk tall. I don't carry shame. I don't take on your hatred. I don't take on your the way you may define me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this to be her position in this particular piece of music, right? And then it's glory, hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thanking of to thank God, to thank ancestors, to thank those who have come and who hold us up, that no matter how bad it is, you can't see that on me. You can't smell it on me. You can't taste it on me. And so it's very powerful to have it mean this other thing for you in playing it in this moment. Let's hear it.
Will you play that for your mother, please?
I sure will.
Thank you.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's
Yeah,
a book out about Florence Price, yes?
yes, there is a book which has been published many, many years after it, was begun, and I think that we have a photo to show. It's called The Heart of a Woman, and it's, the biography of this very fascinating woman by Raylinda Brown, who was early on a scholar of Florence Price. She lived such an incredible life, and so I don't like to say ahead of her time. She was really just outside of her time. I think she was one of those people who, just kept on keeping on, from Arkansas to New England Conservatory in Boston, then to Chicago, where she had this, unbelievably impactful career for an African American woman of her time, or any time, or really, for anyone at all. Most people, I think, who have heard her name know that she was the first African American woman composer to be performed by a major symphony orchestra, but she also did many, many other things and wrote so much music, and led an independent life, left a bad marriage, raised her children on her own, was a teacher, was sort of an influencer, in the art scene of Chicago during those years. So definitely worth learning everything you can about her life and times.
Let's just talk one more time about the Boulanger Initiative, for whom we are in part raising money this evening, also for the American Civil Liberties Union. You can go and donate now at www.boulangerinitiative.org. And there is a $5 donation that gives you a Zoom background of Florence Price. For a $25 donation, there's a limited edition mixtape, AMPLIFY, with Lara Downs
And
playing
Florence
and Florence Price. For a $50 donation, you get the Lara Downs' CD, Holes in the Sky. So, so beautiful. And for a $100 donation, you get the limited edition vinyl Amplify, Lara Downs Plays Florence Price. A lot of little. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that we are all experiencing in the arts during this time is, just a lack of resources and a lack of our normal support structures. So anything that you can do to help, I'm so grateful that that Boulanger has kept going, and I mean, a massive amount of effort has gone into this project. Thank you so much, Helga, for being here. And we are all working long hours and learning new skills and doing doing our very best, not only to get through this time for ourselves, but also to keep giving what we have to give. So any support that everyone is able to muster is so important. And we wanted to also say thank you and hello to our friends at WQXR and National Sawdust who are sharing this concert. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And I think it'd be great. Let's meet Laura Colgate, shall we?
Yes. She's backstage in the green room.
There she is.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
Hi.
Am I right that the storm has died down a bit for you?
It has here. I don't know about with you, Helga, in New York.
No, it has not.
Okay, well, we must have gotten it earlier because this started a few hours ago here, and the lights had been flickering, but that's past now. I'm on the border of Maryland and DC, so quite a bit south of you, Helga.
It's so great to see you, and really, really beautiful to be part of this evening. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, thank you for being a part of this. It's so great to have you, both of you.
And we must also shout out our technical master.
Yes, Emily McMahon.
Thank you, Emily.
McMahon. Thank you.
All this magic happened. I also wanted to really thank Laura for those wonderful program notes that you put together. That's so helpful and a lot of fascinating information. I always have to say thank you too to my colleague Michael Cooper, who discovered this music and has edited all of it, and let me be part of his discovery and his scholarship. And all of the music that you are hearing is available in sheet music from G. Schirmer. So one of my most important goals with this is that I'm not the only one playing it. That pianists and piano students get their hands on this music and learn it and play it in your recitals and your student recitals, and just let the world have Florence Price.
Yeah, I also want to just mention one of the services that we offer from Boulanger Initiative is one of our consulting services, whether you're a musician or an educator, or you just want to learn more about women composers, you can go to our website under the consulting services and fill out the form there. And our research team will track down and hunt down anything you're looking for. So whether you can't find a score, or if you are programming an entire season and you want it to be all, women from Africa in the last 20 years, then our research team will help you put something like that together. So you can visit our website and use that service for free.
Which
Wow.
is such an amazing thing. I can't, I love the rabbit hole, but the rabbit hole takes a lot of time, and there have been
And a lot
things
of
I
energy.
haven't been able to find.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the biggest things that we really have to overcome after awareness. That's the first step, right? Is education, and really trying to do this work with a younger audience, and reaching out with schools and making sure that the younger people and the younger generation knows about this music and these composers, and they learn about it so that it's part of that next generation, that we don't have to teach the awareness part once they take over.
From your lips. What's the last piece we're going to hear?
Well, I want to share the second Fantasy Negre, which is one of 4, although number 3 remains hidden. We have not tracked it down yet, but the first fantasy was the very first piece of music that I learned by Florence Price many, many years ago. That brought me into this passionate relationship that I have with her music. And the second fantasy was turned up by Michael Cooper. Just really quickly, because we may have
some questions also.
Yeah. I just wanted to give a really important piece of information about Florence Price's music, which is that most of it was lost for many, many years, until 2009, when a young couple found in an abandoned house in Illinois just dozens and dozens of manuscripts of her music. And only now, in the last year, have they been edited and published. So this is really, a time of discovery.
Yeah. Before we hear that, I just want we have a couple of questions, I think, from the audience. And this one asks, can you tell us more about the experience of immersing yourself in the works of one composer?
Yeah, it's well, it's funny, because in the last year or 2 years, I have spent huge amounts of time with 2 very extraordinary women, Clara Schumann and Florence Price. Both, gave me my last recording projects and so many performances. And who knows why? I think that especially if you do find yourself, some parts of yourself in the composer whose work you are investigating, it's a very intimate and revealing experience. And
in what way, though, specifically?
I think you trace life experience through the music. You participate in the evolution of an artist. You understand what it means to have personal milestones in life, how that becomes reflected in the music. It's I wonder when Raylinda Brown wrote the biography, there you're looking at dates, and you're looking at letters, and you're looking at documents, and you're piecing together a life. You can also do that through the music in a different way, and you put together this portrait of a person, and then you feel that you know them. You really do.
And what do you think that you can say that you learned about yourself through the music of Florence Price? What are there things that you have in common? That first, and then what do you feel that you learned specifically about yourself?
So I think there's something about persistence. I think there's something about...
Fix your microphone.
Sorry. Is that better? I'm not sure.
I can hear you, Lara. So maybe it's on your side, Helga.
Yeah, I hadn't changed anything. I think that there's something about persistence.
Great.
And, you know, the need to be expressive. I think that if you look at her life and the challenges and the hurdles, and she kept writing, and sometimes she wrote the most when things were the worst. And I found that about myself too. You know, when life is bad, I become intensely creative. And so I understand that. And I understand the need to keep making work and to keep exploring your own voice and letting it take shape and, you know, giving it to others. I think that that was a really important piece of who she was.
So, Lara, I have a question.
Yes.
During this shutdown and this all of this turmoil that we're going through now with the world upside down, have you found more inspiration and motivation in your art?
Yes, I mean it's been actually kind of silly. I think I in March when you know everything just sort of stopped, I had a very very bad crash. You know, I really felt this huge wave of grief that kind of knocked me over. And then I picked myself up and I found a lot of purpose. I think because of the focus of my work and you know the importance right now of telling stories that need to be heard and creating community and equalizing and educating and also just giving hope. So I have been intensely busy and making a lot of things and it feels good. If any, you know, if anything can feel really good right now, I think just feeling that you're contributing something that means something is the best
Absolutely.
I can hope for.
And so I'm a violinist, but I'm also, you know, a lot on the arts administration side and running the Lunch Initiative. And I've really found that, you know, especially because it's an advocacy organization and we deal with social issues and all of that, that I have found so much inspiration on that side to really try and do as much as we can through Boulanger Initiative right now.
Yeah.
And we've been, you know, having so many people reach out and saying that they really want to be a part of this work right now, that they want to feel like they're doing something and they have an impact. And I think that is really powerful and says a lot to what we can do as individuals and as artists.
Yeah. Well, we can all do what we can do. That's all
Okay.
we can do. I
Well,
think Helga's having trouble hearing in her storm there.
well,
Should,
so why don't we move into the last piece then?
yes.
And we should do our goodbyes before that because this will
Well,
be the
I'm
last
so
video.
happy to have been able to be here and to share this music with you and to just to bring some awareness to Boulanger Initiative, um, and to take a moment to remember who I am and that I exist, and that music is a way in which I know that. And so it's very beautiful to be here with you, my friend. Thank you very much. And Laura, thank you so much for inviting me. And it's lovely to meet you. And I'm so glad I
Absolutely.
got to be here.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have had you. Thank you for being here as well.
And I hope everybody will come back tomorrow night for the last concert in this
That's right, one more night.
series.
One more night, yeah.
From the Heart, where I'm going to look at all of the romantic, sentimental, fun, fun music of Florence Price.
And we have the humorous James Bennett coming. So we should have some good laughs, I think, tomorrow night.
Yes. So we are leaving you with the second Fantasy Negra of Florence Price, and I hope you enjoy it, and thank you everybody so much.